Hey guys, welcome back to the Deep Beauty Podcast. I'm so happy to have you guys here for today's episode because we have a really fantastic guest with us today. Her name is Michele Spring. She is an autoimmune health coach. This is a big request from you guys. So I'm super excited to have you on, Michele. Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I first found out about you when I was doing my own sort of like AIP, autoimmune paleo or autoimmune protocol research, and I'd come across your recipes and we started talking. You have your own podcast, and I was on that as well. And it's just like so interesting to see like this community that we have and this resource that we have with each other, like this community that we've built to have people there that have gone maybe not through hair loss itself, but that have gone through autoimmune challenges and just want to share all their knowledge and help other people that are going through the same thing. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
My pleasure. It's when you go through something like this, I feel like if you don't take something positive out of it, you can go into a very dark place, right? So being able to take something positive out of it and being able to help people is truly my pleasure. I love it.
It's so meaningful. And
Mhm.
I wanted to I wanted to start off first with like your journey, what you've been through and what led you down like this sort of to to becoming an autoimmune health coach.
Yeah. So it kind of started when my son had 2 rounds of antibiotics and had weird reactions to cinnamon and walnuts. And we took him to a allergist, and the allergist said, "Oh, we have no idea what the heck it is." He tested positive to everything. They said, "Don't touch nuts or anything like that," for a couple of years. And he was only 2 at the time. And so we tried a healing diet because I had been reading about that. And within weeks, he was fine. And I also started feeling better after that. But then I got pregnant again and forgot about the whole thing, right? And a couple of years later, I'm sitting outside with 2 of my toddlers, and I was so I wasn't even able to like get up and play with them. They kept on asking me to come play with them, and I could not do so. And I realized something had to change at that point in time. 8 years prior to that, I had been told that I had hypothyroidism and that I would just have to take a pill and that there was nothing else that could be done. And every month from that point, I had gone back to him and gotten my medication adjusted because I was too high, I was too low, never right, always feeling symptoms. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse until this day when I was sitting outside and my kids asked me to play and I could not do it because I could not get up. I was so exhausted. And I said, "I'm like 37 years old. This is ridiculous. I should not
Wow.
be in this state." And so I started doing more research and remembered how diet had really helped. So I found a functional medicine practitioner who actually diagnosed me with Hashimoto's and celiac disease.
Wow.
And he agreed that I needed to change my diet. So I went on AIP. And within weeks, I was feeling better than I had in 15 years.
Isn't that
It was incredible.
amazing?
Yeah,
Oh my
it was
gosh.
incredible. And I mean, this was after years of my other doctors saying, "There's nothing that can be done. Diet won't change. Nothing, there's nothing that you can do." And having to get into that space of accepting that I was going to be like this for the rest of my life. And
Mhm.
I couldn't do it. Right. And so by doing the AIP diet and seeing that there actually was hope and that I could be back to my normal self, that gave me so much hope. And so, I mean, that was in 2014. And after that, I was like, I'm going to start a food blog. I'm going to start sharing recipes with people so that way they too can go through this diet. Because back then, there really wasn't very many recipes at all.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as pancakes or, anything. It was basically just meat and veggies. But so, like, I wanted to share that part. But then, like, throughout the years, I've also learned that if I don't get enough sleep or if I exercise too much, I came from an Ironman background.
Oh
So,
wow.
like, doing too much running or too much cardio to me can cause me to flare.
Mhm.
So I've learned that I have to kind of balance and not do too little and not do too much exercise. I have to manage my stress because stress
Mhm.
is a huge trigger for me. All of these different things I've learned all together make a package of how you can live like a flare free lifestyle.
Mhm.
So, like, diet is one of the components, and it really helps to get you out of the whole entire like I'm dying feeling, right? But then
Yeah.
everything else can really get you to that point where you're just living this lifestyle where you basically don't even feel like you have a disease anymore. And so
Oh,
being able to share that is like lights me up, and I love it.
there's so much that I want to get into with what you just said. Oh my gosh. That what an incredible journey. First of all, okay, you said that you had an iron like man or iron lady background. I don't know what the correct terminology is, but um so would you have considered yourself as a pretty healthy individual prior to AIP?
Oh, 100%. I thought I was the healthiest there was. I knew like I didn't eat the best because I mean, I grew up eating Lucky Charms and all of the
As a lot of us
white
did.
wheat products, right? Like
Yeah.
vegetables hardly ever cross my lips. As a Ironman triathlete, you have to look at that a little bit more, so that way you're not putting stuff in your body so that you perform better, but also so that you're not like pooping it out, right? Because if you eat too terribly, you're gonna feel it while on a run or something like that. But I totally thought I was healthy. Like, I mean, I'm an Ironman triathlete. I'm going out here running marathons and doing all this stuff. Of course, I'm healthy. The idea
Yeah.
of me having a disease, a chronic disease at that, didn't even cross my mind.
No, that's one of the things that I get like in terms of questions from clients and stuff like that. It's like, I eat a pretty healthy diet. And it's like, well, it's not about that, it's about what's triggering your flares, what's causing you to lose your hair or throw your thyroid system off and all that. So I love that you said that because that just really drives the point home that there's so much more to autoimmune disease, but also not to scare everyone because it's amazing that everybody's starting to share their stories now because we can actually start to heal and we can actually start to help one another. So,
Yeah, exactly. And to that, I just make a point that my son has type 1 diabetes. He
oh
ate the
wow,
same diet I did of healthy diet, right? And he still got it. So there are so many factors outside of your control that nobody can control. So it's just
totally.
sometimes it's bad luck and toxins and all kinds of stuff.
So, had you had like family or any relations that have autoimmune diseases?
That's a really good question because my mom, she passed away when she was 64 of skin cancer, but she struggled her whole entire life with her weight, and she had hair loss. Like she had very, very thin hair. And when I got diagnosed with a hypothyroidism, I asked her if she had ever had any thyroid issues. And she said she'd never been diagnosed with anything.
Hmm.
But she was also the kind of person who hardly ever went to the doctor. So unless it had gotten so bad that she was like me, like, sitting out there not able to play with like as us as kids, I don't think she would have noticed it. Like, I mean, she didn't even go get the mole checked out on her arm until
Oh
like
wow.
I told her to go get it checked out. And by then it was too late. So I suspect she had thyroid issues just based on everything that I know. But
Yeah.
it's speculation. Other than that, I don't know of anybody, but there definitely could be. Yeah, it's just one of those nobody's really talked about it kind of things.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's interesting because like it's not something that people are like, oh, well, you could have picked it up from your mom or dad or whatever. It's not like other conditions. I feel like people are will definitely look into your genes, but not so much with autoimmune disease. But I've been reading a lot lately about how you can get your gut microbiome based off of what's going on in your mom's gut microbiome. Have
Hmm.
you read about that?
Yeah, yeah, that's something I always worried about with my kids. So I was like, oh, geez.
So what does it look like now in your house in terms of like with your kids? How do you cook? Do you eat a lot of like AIP recipes? Do you eat more paleo?
Yeah, we eat more, I would say paleo-ish. It's paleo with some grains. My kids definitely eat more grains than I do. They're growing boys, so they need a lot more carbs and everything than I need to sustain their ever needing like growing and energy and all of that kind of stuff. But for the most part, like we'll have like a paleo-ish kind of dinner, sometimes with rice or something. And they'll have cereal once a week, things like that. But yeah, I would say it's mainly paleo for the most part.
In terms of like the autoimmune diseases that you have or had gone through, what was it exactly that you had experienced? Like what were you diagnosed with? What were the flares like? And like how is it now?
So I'm going to say that I was diagnosed with a hypothyroidism. We'll call that the autoimmune disease at the time, even though I wasn't told it was. But at that point, I was very tired and they thought I might have mono because I could not. This is after, I want to say my second Ironman. I just didn't feel like I could recover. It was just in that spot where like I felt like I had just finished the Ironman for like months. And then no matter how hard I tried to go run, and I was just tired all the time. So then they put me on the medication and I did feel better for a little while. I think it helped regulate my thyroid. But then month after month, it would be like different things where I'd start feeling tired again. I was losing my hair. I would have cold hands and feet, or I'd be so cold that like I'd be sitting outside in Hawaii and it was 80 degrees and I was wearing a sweater and saying how cold I was. And everyone was making fun of me. I had extremely heavy periods, acne on my face, which I didn't even have acne when I was a teenager, but it was like hormonal acne, dry hands. It was just the list goes on. Oh, my teeth hurt, like just like bodily pains and things. So those things kind of like went in and out, not always at the same time, but it was just like I would never felt right. And sometimes we would adjust the medication and I would feel a little bit better, but then some other symptoms would come on and then we would adjust the medication and I would swing low or high. And then like I would have other symptoms. Once I changed my diet and really got that all cleaned up, I don't really experience much of any of that right now. If I have a flare, it typically heart palpitations are my first like symptom that I get.
Oh,
Those
wow.
tell me, okay, slow down. Make sure you clean up your diet a little bit. Maybe you've been having a little bit more corn or dairy because I don't tolerate those very well. Than you have been. Maybe you should back off on those. Maybe get a little bit more sleep. Maybe back off on the cardio and exercise and really watch your stress. To me, that's my flare protocol to stop flares. So if I get heart palpitations, that's the first thing. And then sometimes I will start noticing other things creeping in if I start getting worse. But for the most part, I've been able to hold off on having any major flares for a couple of years now. So
Oh, wow,
luckily,
a couple of
yeah,
years.
I know. It's exciting after living for years thinking that I was dying and that it was never going to get better to be able to be this way. Just, yeah, it's definitely, I'm grateful.
That's so great. So how long did you do, like how long were you on the elimination phase of the AIP diet for?
So I think it was a 3-month period that I was on strict elimination. And I started feeling good almost, it was like a week or two, I started feeling better. And then about the 6-week mark is where things really just took off. I feel like 6 weeks for me, and that was the first time I had ever removed gluten 100%. So
Oh,
I think that also helped, but like, because there's half-life of how long certain things can last in your body and how your body will continue to attack your tissues and all of that kind of stuff. And so around 6 weeks was where I was like, oh, I feel amazing. And I continued on for a couple more weeks until about the 3-week mark. And then I started slowly reintroducing foods one by one. And for the most part, I was able to reintroduce things. I had a little bit of a problem with eggs at first, but once I was able to heal a little bit more, then I was able to bring those in. And I haven't had a problem with those since. Paprika caused me issues for months and months and months and months. Like that was the hard one. Every time I took that, I got depressed. It was so weird. Like Fish is my favorite band, right? So we went to a Fish show, but I had paprika that day and I sat there the whole time like, yeah.
And that's so interesting because it's like, it's symptoms that people wouldn't even associate with food, you
Yeah,
know?
I know. Yeah. It surprised me. I had no idea, but it happened every time I had paprika for months. And it was the same thing every time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So 6 years ago, I lost 70% of my hair due to alopecia areata. It happened within the span of 5 months, and I had bald patches, general overall thinning. It was falling out in clumps. It was so super scary. I had no idea what was going on. The only time I had ever heard of alopecia was my one makeup client who had lost all of her hair. She lost her hair off the top of her head, her brows, her lashes, all over her body. She had no hair. I was so scared that I was headed down that same road. So I started to call all of my doctor and dermatologist friends that I knew, and the suggestions they gave for regrowing your hair was to use treatments like steroid injections or steroid creams, minoxidil, those kinds of things. But the problem with those was that they weren't A, guaranteed to work, and B, they weren't guaranteed to last. So I happened to somehow stumble upon the phone number for the head dermatologist from the Navy. And we were both surprised when he picked up the phone. But what he told me came as a total shock to me. He said that your hair is going to do whatever it is going to do, regardless of all the treatments that you're going to try. So what you really need to do is get down to the root issue of why it happened in the first place. That's when I went on full research mode. I scoured every single article that I could find on the internet. I watched all the YouTube videos, and what I found was a total surprise to me. That you could actually regrow your hair by healing your body. So that is what I went on a mission to do. I started to read everything I could on nutrition, on autoimmune disease, on stress management, on lifestyle, and I implemented all of these things week by week. I was implementing something new, and within 3 to 5 months, all my hair loss stopped and my hair started to regrow. It just felt like a total miracle to me, and it was just something that I wanted to share with everyone and anyone that would listen to me. That's when I started to post videos on it, and the response was crazy. I didn't realize that so many of you were going through hair loss as well. So it has become my mission to help as many of you that I can regrow your hair, and not only that, but prevent future fallout. That's why I created the 3 Steps to Regrow Your Hair masterclass, as well as all the resources on my website. You can head over to deepaberard.com/links to watch the free masterclass. Once again, that's deepaberard.com/links. I'm going to put the link in the show notes below, and let's head back over to this episode now. So, okay, now that it's been a couple of years, are you able to just like, go to In-N-Out if you really wanted to, or?
Yeah, I'm still 100% gluten-free. I
Mhm.
accidentally got gluten through soy sauce because I didn't realize it was in soy sauce. That was about 6 months into doing AIP.
Mhm.
And that was the worst night of my life. I
Oh,
felt like
no.
knives were coming out of my stomach. It was the worst. Like that's all I ate for 37 years prior to that point, right? And then
Yeah.
suddenly I take it out of my diet for a couple months and it was painful. So I do not touch that. But yeah, I'll go to In-N-Out and I'll have a bunless burger, and
Mhm.
I will have ice cream, dairy ice cream with my kids every so often. I will have corn when I go to Mexico. Like I'm not so strict about it that I'm like, oh, I can't have any of these things except for gluten.
Yeah.
But when I'm home, I have a pretty clean diet in
Yeah.
that regards. It's just I'm gonna live my life, but
Yeah,
so that I don't,
exactly.
like, it's like a balance, right? So that way, as long as I don't feel the symptoms and I don't have those heart palpitations start and all those kind of things, I'm fine.
Yeah, no, I feel like people can get a little scared because it can be such an extreme lifestyle change. But I mean, the thing with gluten too is that like there are so many gluten substitutes out there, and a lot of restaurants have taken that into consideration as well. But other than that, like yeah, it you can get to a point where it's like you said, you can have ice cream every now and then with your kids. You can enjoy your life outside of your home life. You can enjoy things. So I'm glad that you said that, because I really want people to really understand that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's easy to get stuck in, especially with AIP, that you're safe, warm cocoon, that you know that these foods are going to work for you and everything. But
Yeah.
being able to live life is also, I think, important.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting when and I do love the cassava tortillas, but it was really fun when I was able to transition to the almond flour tortillas because I like those a little bit better. But I think it's so interesting. Don't you like that? Those of us that are like that grew up with those diets, like you were saying, Lucky Charms for breakfast, like McDonald's every like weekend, like, and now in the 40s, and like people are really starting to experience things that our parents didn't necessarily experience that early on.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Either that or they didn't recognize it, or
Maybe.
maybe it was the culture too that just push through it. I don't know. I don't know how you push through what I was feeling. So yeah, I mean, foods have changed too, right? Like they've put a lot more, they put gluten into everything so that way you'll eat more calories because they know that it makes you hungrier, and our soils are all dying. So like you're not getting the nutrients. There's a lot more toxins in the air. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's so true. Definitely. It's even not only that, like even your personal care products too. What can be passed off as toxin free. And oh, I was just talking about this with my cousins the other day. There was a makeup product that I had bought, and it was from a clean brand. And I'm doing air quotes for people that are listening to this. And when I went to look it up in the ewg.org, the Skin Deep database, it marked higher than the concealer that I was using previously that was not from a clean brand. And it
Yeah.
made me so mad because it was like, I don't even like this product that much as I do my original product. But I thought I was doing something better for me. But yeah, you really have to do your own research.
You do. Yeah.
So when you first started to look into nutrition and all those different things that we have to adjust for our autoimmune diseases, is that like how did you make that connection?
Actually, it started with skin products because my mom did pass away of skin cancer, right? But something didn't add up to me because she never really spent a lot of time out in the sun and never, that wasn't like really a factor. I was like, there's got to be something else that's
Mhm.
causing this. And to me, I'm like, I don't know. It just didn't make sense. So I started looking at things like what she put on her skin and all the different toxins. Like skin is one of our biggest organs, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, what was she putting on her skin that was causing this? And maybe she because she was standing next to this microwave that she used to, like, the one of the first generation microwaves. Maybe it was something like that. I don't know. And then I was like, oh well, going down that rabbit hole, there's sugar in the bread that I'm eating. Why is there sugar in the bread that I'm eating? Maybe I'm going to try a sugar-free diet for a month, right? And starting to feel better from that. And oh, well, maybe I'll try these organic things. And so like it kind of started off just trying to figure out why my mom had had issues and passed away. And then it turned into this whole like rabbit hole because by the time my son was having those quote unquote allergies or reactions, I had already been on sites learning about how people can reverse food intolerances and things with diet. And at that point, I was like, "Oh hell no, that's not gonna not gonna be me. I'm not giving up my pasta and my pizza and all of that." But about a year of looking at this kind of stuff, I was like, "All right, this makes sense." If I think about it intuitively, it really does make sense that the foods that I'm eating can be causing the issues. And if we really need nutrients to grow our skin and our nails and our hair and all of that kind of stuff, I'm not really getting nutrients
Mhm.
through some of the foods that I was eating and everything. So it's just kind of snowballed from there, I think. It's just, one little thing could turn into this whole entire journey, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And what made you want to work with a functional medical practitioner?
I think just because my doctor had written me off for so long
Mhm.
and kept on saying, there's nothing you can do. There's like diet won't help. Even when I brought him books like The Gut and Psychology Syndrome by Natasha Campbell McBride, or whatever her name is, and like I brought him books
Mm.
saying this is would work. And he's like, nah, nah. And just not feeling supported in that way. I said, okay,
Mhm.
I feel like I need to go more root cause where someone's going to look at why are all of these things happening to me, and through a lot of the research from people doing diet that a lot of people mentioned functional medicine practitioners.
Mhm.
So I think I just started looking at that point.
Yeah, it's just remarkable, like how a lot of doctors kind of have that response. Like they just kind of make you feel a little bit crazy and, oh, you could try diet if you want to, like as if they don't believe that's actually going to work.
Oh, I have my endocrinologist now who I only use for my medication. Still totally disagrees with me that if diet does anything. And years of me not
An,
needing to change medication or anything, still thinks
an
I'm completely nuts.
endocrinologist, like
Hmm.
that's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's the second one too.
Wow.
Yeah, my first one, he retired, but he absolutely refused to believe it. And then this one, I came into her already feeling better, and she was like, "Nah."
Wow. Yeah, I
So
think like I really want like the listeners to take that, like if you take anything away from this episode is just you have to take your health into your own hands. You can't just trust blindly. If you feel in your intuition that something is off, there's something that you can do, just just do it. Just do your research.
yeah,
Because I mean, like I think like as a society, like we tend to think, and, and I don't want to say like all doctors are this way because there are some doctors out there that are very knowledgeable about this kind of thing that are very encouraging. And there are plenty of doctors that are actually taking the certification to become a functional medical because it is an actual doctor that has to be then certified as a functional medical practitioner. But so basically taking that and then like just doing your own research and taking it into your own hands because I mean, who's going to advocate better for yourself than you?
exactly. And doctors are doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have, and the
Exactly.
time that they have, and most doctors are not taught that there is anything that you can do for autoimmune disease. And sometimes
Yeah.
when you mention things like diet, it's a threat to them because they don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
And so they're going to discount that because they know medication, but they don't know diet.
Yeah.
And so they'll just either discount you or it says they just haven't been taught that. Because I've actually had plenty of conversations with doctors casually, and they said, "Oh, we had no idea. We had no idea that there's anything
Right.
that you can do because we're not taught that in med school. We're taught the when a patient shows with hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, you give them medication, and
Yeah.
that's all we've been taught."
Yeah.
And they had no idea that there was an alternative. So
Oh my
you
gosh.
just have to advocate for yourself, essentially.
So, is there anything that you would want to share with the people that are listening or watching in regards to autoimmune related hair loss?
I'm gonna say nutrients for sure. It seems to be the biggest thing that a lot of people that I've worked with, once they've gotten their diet under control and the leaky gut is healed and all of that, just making sure that they're getting in plenty of nutrients. That seems to be the helpful thing, at least in the Hashimoto's realm.
Mhm.
Um, but just being able to give your body what it needs because it is in that stress state typically, and hair and nails and skin are the last thing it could care less about it, right? Because it's a housekeeping activity essentially. So if you can really get your nutrients in and help reduce your stress and all of that, I think it's going to be the probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, that's one thing that I say a lot is that like yeah, like you just said, hair, skin, and nails. That's like the lowest on the priority list of what your body wants to manage and take care of. So when your like body's in the stress state, like you said, that's the first place that you're going to see it. And a lot of people make that association with skin issues, whether it be acne or whatever. They know instantly, oh, I've had too much of this or I've had too much of that. Well, this can be the same thing for your hair. So I'm really glad that you said that. So, okay, so I want you to share with everybody where they can find you, if they want to see some of the recipes that you had done and all the other exciting projects that you're working on right now.
You can find me everywhere as Thriving Autoimmune, or look for my name, Michelle with one L and Spring.
Perfect. And I'm going to put links in the description if you're watching this, and then as well as the show notes if you're listening to this. But I just wanted to say thank you again, Michelle, for being on the podcast. I just really want to see more people that are like you that have taken their health into their own hands and are thriving now.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.